Phil, I believe this is our, always wanted to use this word, penultimate,
Penultimate. I knew you were going to say that.
penultimate episode.
It is our penultimate
Although
episode.
knowing us, who knows? But
And it's like a bonus episode, kind of, because these are things that were added after the book came out.
it's interventionist episode, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there
So,
you go.
so, uh, well, before you go into the specifics, so were these things that you feel you missed in the book, or they weren't even around, or you didn't see them? Excuse me, in
Both,
time for the book,
both.
or a bit of both.
I think about half were things I wrote about after because I hadn't seen them yet, and I just wanted to write about them. And then I just remembered two or three things I missed.
Right,
Uh,
right. There's one obvious one that you would
yeah,
have seen before. So,
yeah, said I should include those. So I think for about half of these, I wrote actual entries on the blog and
mhm.
then put the entries in the second version of the book that was uploaded, which, allowed me to fix the usual typos. There weren't that many, but there were a few. And then the other three or four, I just added to the thing at the back
Okay.
with short entries. Yeah.
Okay. So what do you have about six or seven, I think, eh?
Yeah, now just we'll dispense with three of them right off the bat, which we both recognize. Well, two of them we've already talked about in other contexts. I think not for this, but I think maybe for actually one of them we did talk about for a clip in this series, and it was when we did Saturday Night Fever and Looking for Mr. Goodbar. We started talking about disco films, and I ended up adding Everybody Dance, Chic's Everybody Dance from the Last Days of Disco. We already spoke about that. We don't need to speak about The Small Faces, Lazy Sunday from Steve McQueen's Small Axe series, because we did that, I think, with Stephen Rubio as part of,
Oh, that's what we did it in. Okay. I
yeah,
was thinking it was for clipography, but okay, we did it for that. Okay.
for what they said. So if you want to hear us talk about that, go look up What They Said, which is on Scott's DJ North video clips.
Same
And
YouTube.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, the third one, there's nothing I can say because I saw it once 20, 25 years ago. It's something you cannot see now unless you're ready to spend, I think, a lot of money on a video. Or a DVD. It's Jonah Mekas's. It's a film called As I Was Moving Ahead Occasionally, I Saw Brief Glimpses of Beauty. And I saw it once at the Lightbox. It wasn't even part of a series, I don't think. They had a one-off showing. That film has really gained in stature over the years. It ended up, I think, in the top 100 on the Sight and Sound list last time, which was kind of odd because Jonah Mekas made this, or at least released it, years after kind of his heyday as an underground filmmaker, which is the early 60s. Um, Obviously, it was filmed many years before. Anyway, it's the Velvet Underground's Run, Run, Run. And literally, the only thing I remember is that, and this is a 3 hour film, just home movies. Um, and, a lot of famous people, John Lennon, people flash by. John Lennon's playing basketball with somebody in, the driveway with somebody.
Wow.
Uh, he uses the Velvet Underground's Run, 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 and it's just great. It appears suddenly when his son walks for the first time. His son's like, whatever, whenever kids start to walk, 1 or 1.5. And he's got footage of his son walking for the first time. And he uses the Velvet Underground's Run, Run, Run.
Wow.
And man, it jumped out at me. I never forgot it. Can't find it on YouTube, can't find it anywhere. So that's all I can say about that, other than the story I came away from that screening with, which is that I got to speak to Jonas Mekas
Hmm.
because the music, I probably told you this story personally, Scott, but not as part of the series for sure. So I'll just recap it quickly. I walked up to him after the film ended. He was just kind of hanging around inside the theater when it was still the Cinematheque. And there was some music that I really liked. It was droney stuff. I think it might have been by Tony Conrad. He was a guy who was in the early version of Velvet Underground. And
Okay.
first of all, I asked him what it was. And then I said, well, is there any way I could get a hold of that? I think this was the mid 90s that, the internet was still relatively new. He said, no, but he said, I can send you the music. And I guess he
Oh,
meant on a cassette or something. He said, "Give me your address." And I think what I gave him was probably a mailing address, not an email address. Possible I gave him an email address. I don't remember. So I did follow up. He never did, but
Okay.
I'm just happy to say I got to speak to him because he
Yeah.
is such a huge figure in the history of film. I mean, monumental. And in that voice book, even he's pretty important
Yeah.
early. Uh, he leaves the voice pretty early.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we don't need to dwell on those three. Two we've talked about. One I can't say much about. So we'll move on to I think I've got six lined up, and I'm hoping we can get it in a single 40 minutes soon. So the first one, and I wanted to do this quickly because three of these, I think, are TV series, and two of them are TV series that, I used to, whenever I wrote about a TV series, and sometimes I think even when we Zoomed about them, I would make the effort to go back and watch the whole thing just so I could get the context. And two of these series, it would be just pointless because one of them, I was confused the whole way as I was watching it. And I'm going to probably start a rewatch, but that's Mr. Robot,
Right.
which I wrote about twice in the book. Once early on, and I wrote about I think Kraftwerk, the song, Tangerine Dream song that we
Right.
talked about last week, that was used in an early episode of Mr. Robot. And then I delayed going back to the series. I finally did. And I was glad I was because even though I was often still confused, it did have a lot of good stuff in those last couple of seasons. And I ended up choosing, of all things, Gordon Lightfoot's If You Could Read My Mind, which popped up in episode 2 of the third season. And it was just such a strange clip. I was going to even suggest that you have Prime, right? You could have gone on to Prime and watched
Yeah. Yeah.
it. It was one of the two, and I should have let you know. Anyway, now this was preceded by a couple of other memorable pieces of music that I hadn't gotten to when I wrote about Mr. Robot the first time. I don't remember how, but it used Sonic Youth's "Cool Thing" in an episode, I think really well. Maybe not as well as Simple Men, but well. And something I was ready to write about till it was eclipsed by Gordon Lightfoot. It has a fantastic karaoke scene with this character, Angela, played by Portia Doubleday, who was Ellen DeGeneres' partner for years. And she's doing Everybody Wants to Rule the World at a moment when it's like a real bad moment for her. And that was great. That really made an impression on me. And man, you could look that up on YouTube at one time. It's been taken down. But I ended up writing about Gordon Lightfoot. It is such a strange, in the context of the series, it's so strange. It centers around this character, Tyrell Wellick, who's one of the strangest characters in any TV series ever. I never figured the guy out. I didn't know. He was central to all 4 seasons of Mr. Robot, yet I couldn't understand the guy. He started out as a member of the company. Mr. Robot's basically about these hackers that want to bring down this company called E-Corp. They call Elliot, the main character, Remy Malek's character, calls them Evil Corps. And they want to bring them down because they want to erase all debt from the world. So, and there's such a convoluted plot. And anyway, this guy, Tyrell Wellick, starts as this kind of almost a Patrick Bateman, really creepy kind of yuppie type who's in line to be the senior VP of E-Corp, but he ends up at some point in the middle, he goes crazy and he ends up being part of F Society. Never really understood that. He gets married, he loses his family, and in this episode, he is living in a safe house. He's away from his family for reasons I don't remember. And he's under the watch of a guy we like, mentioned a few times. I looked up the proper pronunciation, Bobby Cannavale. No, Bobby Cannavale.
Yeah.
Right?
He was in
Homecoming.
Homecoming. Yeah. And I've seen him, I think, in one other thing. I recognized him when he was in that show. Yeah.
For 2 or 3 years, he was popping up everywhere, especially on stuff. And he plays a really funny character named Irving. He always makes an impression. I went back to my entry and I said, like as is often the case, he's off doing his own series. That's how
Yeah.
it's in Homecoming. There's the series, and then he's doing his own thing, and he's really
Yeah.
fun. So same thing here. And he's teaching this guy Terrell Wellick how to chop wood. Now, the strange thing about this is that Mr. Robot is a series that, like the natural world doesn't exist. It takes place in offices and darkened rooms and weird spaces, but there's no trees ever in this series. There's no water ever in this series. Suddenly, Terrell Wellick's out in this log cabin being shown how to chop wood by Bobby Cannavale. And he's really good at it. And Bobby Cannavale says, "Wow, you're really good at that. I didn't expect that." And he says, "Well, I learned how as a kid." And and then we find out he hated it. And at that point, the song, right on the line, "I hated it." I forget how that line set up. The Gordon Lightfoot song cuts
Wow.
in, and it's just great. He's chopping wood, and if you could read my mind, just playing, and it cuts between him chopping wood and him on a computer watching video cam footage of his baby, who he's been separated from, his wife on the internet, who's been separated from, and a map. He's putting push pins into a map. I think he's trying to figure out where they're located. And the song keeps playing, and then it goes back, and you get some more stuff. There's, I think, a scene with Wallace Shawn, and then it goes back to the log cabin, and more of "If You Could Read My Mind." It's used twice in the series, and it's great. That's my favorite Gordon Lightfoot song. It's the one that's mentioned in Stranded. I can't remember if I ever did. I thought again, I should write. We ever talk about this? Right? Send Marcus and ask Real about that song. Has he ever expanded on whether he still
Yeah, he
likes it?
has actually a couple times, I
I
think.
thought so. I thought somebody else wrote about and I
Yeah.
think he was sort of nonchalant, like, "Oh, it's just something I loved at the time," or am I wrong? I don't remember.
I think what he kind of focused on is how much Bob Dylan liked it, actually.
Oh, yes.
Quote or
You're right.
something where Dylan actually claimed, but then, the joke is that Dylan has said this about many songs, but,
Well, Dylan's often gone up.
there's never been a song as well written as that or something like that, right? So
He's on record a few times how much he loves Gordon Lightfoot.
I think
Um,
Marcus does love the song, though. I don't think he was too nonchalant about it. I think
okay, I'm wrong.
he did say at the time he was pretty floored by it, so how
It's
different it
just
sounded or something.
it's such a great song. I don't know if Gordon Lightfoot ever used strings the way he did in that song. It's got that, we talk about strings and that Burt Bacharach thing from the early 70s.
Exactly. Yeah, the exactly almost Wichita lineman, like a little bit. Yeah.
Wichita lineman. Yep, for sure. It's got a very Wichita lineman feel. Um, and the only thing I want to say about Mr. Robot is I kept watching the scene, and I'd forgotten how much I was in love with this one character, Carrie Chapin as Starlene. She was just a very strange character. So the clip got me onto it. I think we can go. I just finished Ozark, and I think I'm stupid. I never investigate new series. I just keep going back to the same 6 or 7, Scott. It just seems safer, than
Yeah.
I'm going to watch this. I'm going to have to make this new thing, and I'll be 4 episodes in. I'll have to decide if I want to go on or not.
Yeah. Well, and good series that you've watched always contain a lot, right? I mean, it's
Always
easy
catch
to
stuff
rewatch
off.
them. I mean,
And Mr. Robot especially, it'd be nice to really understand that. So the next one I'll talk about is another very strange series. Luckily, I have a bootleg of the first season, so I was able to go back and watch it. It's Atlanta,
right.
uh, the one with Childish Gambino. I forget
Yeah.
who's the actor. Donald.
Yeah.
I should look that
Yeah.
up. Anyway, it's really
I
well
should
written.
know that. Yeah.
Donald Glover.
Glover. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And Atlanta is a great series. I got a little impatient with it. Season 3 and 4, it got so. Um, I always had this strange thing where it would have episodes where not one of the 4 principals would be in the episode, and it would somehow make it work. It would tie in at the end. They would have something that would tie it in. And actually, one of the characters might pop up in the last 2 minutes, but they had episodes where none of them were in it. And yet they made it work. But they really took that to an extreme as it went on. I think the third or fourth season, suddenly the 4 characters were only in about half the episodes, and some of them I just didn't like. And there was this one season finale with a great character, Vanessa or Van. People on the message board seemed to like it. I hated it. I found it very confusing where she had a double character. Anyway, so I was getting impatient with the show, season 3 and 4. I think that's how long it's gone. I think there is supposed to be another season slated. First 2 seasons I really liked. Then there were 2 famous episodes I didn't like, but pretty much everything else I really liked. The song I chose is from an episode called Juneteenth, and it's season 1, episode 9. It's the penultimate episode that that season, not the last one, but the second to last. And I sort of reviewed the episode. Ern and Vanessa, they go to this party for Juneteenth, the holiday, and it's hosted by their two of their white friends. And one of the guy, he's obviously they had Get Out on its mind. This is 2000. I wonder though. I should have checked the dates. I think it's after Get Out. You wouldn't know offhand what year Get Out came out, would you?
I'm thinking 2009 or something, but I just can't remember.
No, it can't be that old. But okay, it
I could be
definitely.
wrong. Oh, yeah, no, you're right. It's not that old. No, it's yeah, I don't know. You could look it
Well,
up.
I
2011, 2012. I don't know.
well, I talk. Would you mind looking that up really
Yeah, I'll look
quickly?
it up while you're doing it.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious as to whether I'm pretty sure they're referencing Get Out rather than the other way around. Anyway, the guy,
Oh, God.
uh, the guy
Sorry,
in
I'm
this
not even close. It's 2017. I must be, I don't know what I was thinking.
that is so weird. So this episode comes out before Get Out. God, I
Hmm.
wonder if Get Out was referencing Atlanta because the white guy, he's just a total embarrassment. He wants to show Ern and Vanessa how devoted he is to African American culture. So he's got sculptures around, and the things he says, and the music that's playing, and everything about him is meant to impress them. And why did my computer just beep for some reason?
You're still good here.
Okay, it's just something's going on in the background. Oh, Chuck Eddy replied to my comment on the photo and expert witness. Okay, let me get Facebook off there. That's what happened. So, this couple, especially the guy, just kind of makes an idiot of himself at this party. And then the episode ends with them driving off. And by the way, Ern and Vanessa, I don't think they're married, but they have a daughter together. And at this point in the series, they've gone their separate ways. The series may even start where they have the daughter and they're not really a couple. I can't remember. But anyway, they're definitely kind of apart. The series, that episode begins with Ern wakes up, he's in bed with another woman, and Vanessa picks him up to go to the party. After the party, though, they leave. It's night, and they're driving along, and Vanessa says, pull over. And just pulls the car over, and they start to, clearly they're gonna have sex. They start to make out. And all of a sudden, Sam Cooke's Chain Gang starts up on the soundtrack, which is, one of my favorite Sam Cooke songs. As I mentioned in the intro I wrote, it's such an unusual choice because for a scene, a romantic scene, Sam Cooke certainly had lots of romantic music, right? You wouldn't expect a song like Chain Gang, yet it fits perfectly. And when I thought about it later, Atlanta obviously has a lot to do with race and a lot to do with, well, I mean, how could it not? Race as it relates to white people. And you think about it, they just been at this party where this white guy makes a total fool of himself. I'd have to really think about it. Why Chain Gang? But there's a comment there. Something's being said. You think about the content of Chain Gang, which is like pretty political, right?
Yeah.
And to use it in that context, it's just kind of a weird choice, but inspired, and it works so great. It actually does suddenly almost become a romantic song.
Wow.
We've talked about Sam Cooke and Malcolm X, and I think he's come up a couple other times. Amazingly, yesterday I was watching the last episode of Ozark, which used "Bring It On Home" to me in a great way.
Wow.
Turns out actually they used it twice. Ozark had this circular structure for the last season, so it's used, the same scene is used in the first and last episode of the fourth season. So Sam Cooke really, does make his mark in a few things, and I put this right up there with anything. Did I have any other notes about this? I just, the last thing I'll mention, when I wrote the entry about Atlanta, I pointed out there is lots of great hip hop in the series. And I started a folder, stuff I didn't know at all, because this is at a point where, this is like mid 2000s, and I'm not really following hip hop at all. So it's all new to me. And I got to go back to it. I want to finish getting the entire list of songs and at least burning myself one CD 80 of hip hop from Atlanta. So I hope they get a fifth season. I would like to, kind of finish it up. The next series is another convoluted one that's really, I mean, not Atlanta, but the thing that Mr. Robot and The Handmaid's Tale have in common is I think they both went on a little too long. Mr. Robot rebounded. Handmaid's Tale is still up in the air. It's just going on forever. I kind of feel sorry. I think Elizabeth Moss got sort of committed to it. It's, she should be having a thriving movie career right now, and she's stuck in this series. And I think the next season will be the next one. So did you get a chance to look at the clip, the cloud busting?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's great. Like Mr. Robot in Atlanta, series just became so convoluted, exhausting at times. This is an episode called Liars in the, I didn't copy it down. I think it's the third season, 2019. Now, before that, I'll mention some other music that was used. They used Oh Bondage Up Yours to end an episode. The only thing is, they really misused it. It's a great episode, great ending where can't you remember what they're called? The women of the Handmaid's Tale, right. not the Marthas, but the ones that are there to, get impregnated. I can't even remember what they're called.
Of course, I still haven't seen it, so I don't know what they're called. But I know what you mean, though.
Oh, they've got a name that's passed into popular culture. Anyway, they're ready to bomb it. They're having an opening for a building, and they're outside. They're ready to bomb it. But instead of, at one point, I think they're called the Handmaid. That's why it's called the Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid. Can you believe that? It's like saying it's like saying you're talking about the movie The Warriors. Yeah. I can't remember what this gang is called. Okay, that's a classic one. So one of the handmaids holds up the bomb, and they should have started the song right there. But instead, they bomb the place, screen goes black, credits start, and then they start X-Ray Specs. I mean, they should have used it like they used the Dead Boys and Carlos, where it choreographs the action. And then just quickly, there's a lot of great music in The Handmaid's Tale. I'll just read some of it very quickly. I won't read the context. You Don't Own Me, White Rabbit, American Girl, which I thought might have been a nod to the Silence of the Lambs, the way it's used. Hollaback Girl was used in an episode, Junior Mom singing it. Iris DeMent's My Life, which might have been a reference to The Leftovers. Venus's Shocking Blue, Ichiku Park, before Small Axe. Burning Down the House to end season 2. A great song by Roy Harper. One of the songs I discovered via the series. How Does It Feel? Do you know Roy Harper, this guy from the 70s? Yeah. Cruel to Be Kind, Lawrence. This guy, character Commander Lawrence, I'll talk about him in a minute. And Every Day to end season 3. Attend season 3's Household, which I thought might have been a Mad Men reference. And finally, Que Sera Sera, which again might have been a Mad Men reference. So with Elizabeth Moss having the lead role in the series, and it's possible those two were referring to that. So I chose Cloud Busting, which beat Stranger Than Things by 4 years. If you can believe it. This is May 2018, 4 years exactly before Stranger Things made Kate Bush famous again, or at least put her back on the charts again, running up that hill. Yeah. By the way, I never did watch that season of Stranger. I got impatient with it. I started to watch the clip online with Running Up That Hill. It just looks so ridiculous. It was a real Nightmare on Elm Street thing, which I know is how the series started, paying tribute to the 80s pop culture, but it looked really silly. In the scene where it's used in The Handmaid's Tale, the episode before, June has murdered this evil commander, and it's the next morning, and she's waking up, and the song starts right away. They use the entire song, and it cuts between her waking up, kind of easing into the day, and the Marthas back at this casino cleaning up the evidence of the murder. Kind of, they've got her back. They're cleaning up all the evidence. And it's just, I tried to explain in the book why I thought it was just the perfect song for this series. I can't really, I didn't really try to rethink that, but just something about that song, it seems to fit the look of the handmaidens, the feel of the series. Both the song and the novel came out just months apart. I think that's more of a coincidence. They're obviously the Handmaid's Tale is, I call them, I shouldn't be calling them handmaids or handmaids. It is very much a work of feminism. I think the series even more so than the novel. I think from what I've read, I have read the novel, and the song fits into that. And there's a whole lot of stuff going on that I can't explain. It just seemed like the perfect song. And it's beautiful the way it's used. It's got a feeling of, you feel the sense of community with the Marthas helping out June, and you also feel like it's a new beginning. And the scene has this great ending with the character played by Bradley Whitford, Commander Lawrence, who I'll put with Tyrell Wellick from Mr. Robot, is truly one of the strangest characters I've ever encountered in a series. You don't know where his allegiances are, whether his allegiances are with the awful, town called Gillian. I probably messed that up, or whether it's with the handmaids. He just seems to be a complete free agent. And he's just so weird. He's always saying things to himself and making private jokes that nobody gets. It's got a dramatic ending. As the song ends, he emerges out of the shadows and he hands June a gun. He says, they'll be coming for us. In other words, they're going to find out about this murder. They're going to find out that I've been kind of playing both sides and they're coming for us. Just great. Fantastic. So that got me, that was enough to keep me interested in the series right then and there. And it did rebound a bit in the last season. So I am looking forward to the next one. The two, June and her nemesis from the other side, have kind of bonded and they now seem to be working together. So we'll see what happens. I pray that this is the last season. I can't take anymore.
Yeah. What is it? Okay, it's like season 6 or something like that, or
I think they're moving on to season 6. Yeah, they really dragged it out. Apparently, they left the book in season 1, so you can imagine how much just script themselves. Anyway, the next one, I know you've seen. It's one that I just forgot about and should have gotten into the book. Needles and Camel's Eye, to open up Todd Haynes' Velvet Goldmine. I think certainly one of the great opening scenes of any movie I wrote about the book.
Yeah.
I didn't do a whole entry. I just wrote about the short entry at the back. So, it's got this kind of prologue. I went back and checked. They're in 2 separate clips on YouTube. You can't get them together. But if you remember, Velvet Goldmine actually starts with this really melodramatic prologue, almost like science fiction with stars and everything. And it's when the main character, who I guess it would be Christian Bale's character, right?
He was, I think he was the main guy, right?
Yeah. So it starts with a great title card. Although what you're about to see is a work of fiction, it should nevertheless be played at maximum volume, which is kind of funny. And then you get this weird fanciful thing on his birth and him as a kid, and it ends on this line. It's got a voiceover narration. I don't know who's doing the narration. And one day the whole stinking world would be theirs. And then you cut to Britain, London in 1974. I think it's 74. And the Eno song, amazing song. What album is it off of? Ticking Time Bomb?
Off his first. No, it's off his first one. Here Come the Warm Jets.
Here Come the Warm Jets.
First song on Here Come the Warm Jets.
I was going to say, yeah, it's the first song in the album, right? Which I think I probably hadn't fully loved until the movie. I don't know. And all these glam kids, it's kind of, I guess, a nod in a way to Hard Day's Night. All these glam kids are running wild through the streets. And, you get You get lots of shots of their footwear
Yeah.
and their clothes, and you're not sure where they're running to, but you do see a poster, some postering for a Brian Slade show. So presumably they're running to the show to line up for the show. You get a glimpse of Jack Ferry in the streets alone. He's smoking a cigarette. The credits are rolling, and they're in great 70s font, multicolored.
Mm.
We see again, you see cut back and forth between all the kids, teenagers and Jack Ferry, and it turns at one point Christian Bale, we see him for the first time. He stops, he sees Jack Ferry. And I can't remember Jack Ferry. He's just kind of like a scene guy, right? He's not a big, although he does perform too.
I think so, but Phil, Phil, I haven't seen the movie since literally the week
Okay,
it came out. So,
yeah.
right,
I can't remember his role, but he's somebody that they recognize. Like Christian Bale's like,
right.
whoa,
I
he doesn't
watched the
say
clip.
anything,
Yeah.
but he knows it's Jack Ferry.
Hmm.
We see a great shot of one guy and three of the women. They're doing their lipstick and mascara in a store window reflection, and I immediately thought that's got to be a reference to New York Dolls, right? The
Mm.
line personality is it no? Is it looking for a kiss? The mirror is getting jammed up with
Yeah,
all your
that's
friends.
personality crisis. Yeah.
Personality crisis. So I'm thinking that could easily be uh, Todd Haynes's tribute to the New York Dolls. And they play just like I should have mentioned, Cloud Busting. I think the entire song is used, and I think probably pretty much the entire uh,
Yeah. I think it's the whole track. Yeah.
Iron Needles and the Camel's Eye is used. Um, it's the movements of the kids, they're choreographed beautifully to the song. It's a lot of stop and start in the song, right? Like the do
Mhm.
do do do
Yeah.
stops, and then the running will stop, cut to something, they'll start up again. It's really he really pays attention to syncing the music with syncing what's going on in the screen to the music. I'll mention one other thing that made me laugh. You know how Google you look up something and like type in Velvet Underground and you'll often get the
Velvet
Wikipedia.
Goldmine. Velvet Goldmine.
Velvet Goldmine, you'll get the Wikipedia and the IMDb entry right away, but you'll also get 4 questions that people commonly ask about whatever you're Googling. You know how
Right.
the 4 questions will
Yeah.
show up? So the first two questions for Velvet Goldmine. Number one, is Velvet Goldmine a queer movie? Number two, is Velvet Goldmine a good movie? I didn't even look at the answers, but I thought, these are the questions people are typing in.
Maybe and yes, I guess.
The opening credit sequence for Georgy Girl, which I love, but this is a film that has even less critical standing, I think, than To Serve with Love. It's got none. Not even in the sense of a director that did other films that are well known. I don't know the director at all. But if you saw it at a certain age, it stayed in your mind. It's just sort of God, I never use this word. It's a charming film, largely because of Lynn Redgrave as Georgie, the lead character. And 1966, really captures that moment, although the version of Swinging London that gives is not really, I think, that reflected what was actually happening. It gives a very toned down version of it. Um, so the plot, it's Lynn Redgrave is a real, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. She's very presented as a plain Jane in the film, especially against her roommate, played by Charlotte Rampling, who's very glamorous and very modish. Uh, she's got that mid-60s mod look about her. Um, and I think Charlotte Rampling kind of uses Lynn Redgrave in the film various ways, very condescending to her. Lynn Redgrave is sort of mixed. She's being pursued by James Mason, who's much older than her. He's like
I was gonna say I was thinking of Lolita when I watched that clip.
yeah.
I've seen
I
the
mean,
movie, but I was like, is this like a Lolita? I mean, I know it wasn't. It's more of a family movie or whatever. But
no, Lynn Redgrave's I think in her 20s.
yeah, yeah,
And James Mason, I think is her dad's business partner or boss or
okay,
something. And he's pursuing her, and I think he does kind of get win her over or whatever. But she ends up becoming involved with Alan Bates, who is Charlotte Rampling's boyfriend. I didn't rewatch the whole film. Not necessary. The opening credits, it's great. It's got the song, and there's nothing. It's just Lynn Redgrave out in the streets of London, kind of running, frolicking along. It actually makes kind of a good pairing with Velvet Goldmine. And she even does things that are very specifically cued by the lyrics. We see her, she's just moving around the streets, busy streets. A couple times she puts her hand out to stop traffic, reminding me of Dustin Hoffman and Midnight Cowboy. And then when the line comes up in the song about you're always window shopping, but never buying, however that line goes, we see her looking into the window of a salon. There's some wigs in the window, and she's debating whether she should go in and get her hair done. She makes eye contact with the sales girl inside. She does go inside, and then we see her come out. She's got this piled high beehive. But she looks in the mirror. She hates it. She starts running again. And the new hairdo starts to shake loose. And then she ducks into a subway station, or a tube station, I guess it would be called in England. And she dunks her head in some water and just shakes, whatever she just paid for. Now her hair is just sopping wet. The hairdo's gone. And the song ends. I think pretty much the whole song is used. It's just got a really nice feel, and it captures the mood of the film. It certainly captures the mood of the song. It's, in this film, she gets pregnant at one point, I believe. And I think it becomes a case of who's going to be with her to father this child. Is it going to be Alan Bates or James Mason? I may be misremembering the film.
But that's what confused me. That's what confused me about the clip, because I haven't seen the movie. I thought maybe it was the closing credits, because it seemed to be sort of plot based with the baby and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, it's
if they show it at the beginning and then they go into that as part of the story in the movie, or is that
later on? And I'm wondering if the song turns up again in the film. I think it definitely
because they hand her the baby through when they get married or something. At least the clip that you sent.
Oh. Wow.
Maybe there's a second. Maybe I think it maybe is a reoccurrence. Maybe I think there was a break and then it started again. Maybe so. Maybe it's
maybe I didn't watch it right till the end. Okay, I didn't watch it right till the end. So that must have had to do with that. After I watched the clip on YouTube, along the sidebar, there was a clip of Ben Mankiewicz talking about the film. So I listened to that. And I learned that Georgy Girl was kept back from #1 by I'm a Believer. It hit as #2. And the other thing of interest to you and me would be that a guy in the Seekers, Keith Potger, 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 I think would be the pronunciation. He relaunched the band as the New Seekers in 1969. He wanted to retain.
That might be the same group.
Yeah, well, it only has the one member in common, but it is a new variation on the band, and of course, the New Seekers, Mad Men, and I'd like to teach the world to sing. So,
and did the Seekers show up in another movie you discussed, or?
I don't think so. Well, those are the actually they.
Or do they show up? Do they show up in Miss America? Maybe you didn't use it in the book, but don't they show up in an episode of Mrs. America?
Quite possible. Yeah, I think you're right. And the only other song that I think I remember them doing was a cover. They had a hit with Melanie's "Look What They've Done to My Song." I think they might have had a hit with that.
I discovered a Seekers song recently. I was going to ask you if you are familiar with it. What's it called? I've got it written down here. I'll Never Find Another You.
Yes. And you know what? You just
listen to that if you haven't heard it in a long time. It's quite a good song, actually.
Oh, I think I do know that. And I think that they may have used an early Seekers song in an earlier episode of Mad Men. I'm not sure because now you're reminding me. I have a couple of their mid-60s albums, and there is some good stuff on there. They were good if you like that kind of, they're like a precursor to Sunshine Pop.
And I'm sure they show. I'm sure. I thought for sure we talked about them in Mrs. America.
I think you're right that they're Miss America. I do
Yeah,
think
like at the end of one of the episodes, but
yeah, I should have looked that up. So that might be the third time we've spoken about them.
Hey there, Georgy girl, there's another Georgy deep inside. Bring out all the love you hide, and oh, what a change there'd be